All right, welcome everybody to another episode of Why We Hunt. And as we try to delve down and discover why we hunt digital achievements and trophies and keep up with our mobile game shenanigans and all that jazz. So I got a guest today. We've been having some pretty hardcore trophy hunters of late. And we got a slightly different take on it from someone that used to hunt trophies more so than they do now. Um, well, you want to introduce yourself, Mr. Lucentai?
Yeah, thanks for having me. My name is Vin, aka Lucentai, and yeah, so I used to be um really into trophies. I would probably say from about 2009 to 2017. I haven't gone to platinum in almost 3 years, but I used to do some pretty crazy things to get platinums. Stacking certain puzzle games, wink wink, and yeah, it's sort of been a thing I moved on from, but to some degree, I still respect trophies. It's just that I just don't go to like these crazy lengths to like get them anymore, and but yeah, it's certainly been fun, like, chatting with people who are still into the hunt and all that stuff. It's just not something I personally get too much into nowadays.
So when you said you were like super into it, or like how into it were you? Like, were you like obsessed? Like, oh man, I gotta get this plat or whatever. Or did you play like a bunch of garbage, or was it mostly just good games that you enjoyed?
Say for the most part, I would play games I enjoyed. So I wouldn't necessarily like buy games that I didn't care about. So basically, if I really really enjoyed the game, I would go for the platinum. But even so, like if the trophy list was like too hard, I wouldn't like go to crazy lengths to platinum it.
And you
Um,
you wouldn't like avoid the game because the trophy list was too hard.
Right, exactly. So I actually know like a handful of people who don't put games on their card if the game is too hard to plat because they don't want to wreck their ratio. But in my case, um, I'm a little spastic and random sometimes, so I wouldn't mind just like getting like a trophy or whatever. I wouldn't like worry about that too much.
Okay. Actually, before we go too far into the trophy and achievement stuff, what started you off in gaming? We gotta get a little background here.
Of course, yeah, of course. So my very first game was the Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt cartridge for NES. So that came out in the late '80s, right? So
Oh man,
I
it's that anniversary today, isn't it?
I think so. I think yeah, it's how apt, right? Yeah, it's what quinky dink, right? So, but yeah, so there's that combo cartridge. You could pick between Super Mario Brothers or Duck Hunt on the title screen there. So I grew up with an NES, and also a clone Famicom actually. So I had a pretty unique upbringing. I was growing up with like all sorts of it's basically Japanese and American NES games. So it was pretty I was very much into like puzzle games and platformers as a kid. I played way too much Mega Man.
Oh
So
yeah,
like
big Mega
yeah,
Man fan over
yeah,
here.
yeah. So like one of my favorite like anecdotes is that I tried to make a Mega Man mask in kindergarten, right? And so I did that, and one of my classmates thought I was a Ninja Turtle. So that was
what
those are fun times, man. Those are fun
what'd your
times.
teacher think of it?
I don't remember.
Probably
They
had no
probably just
idea.
thought it was cute or whatever, right? But it was too long ago.
That's actually funny because in second grade, yeah, it was second grade. We had reading time, and you were supposed to read for a half hour and then spend a half hour writing about what you read. And so I did a Legend of Zelda. I can't remember which one. Some strategy guide. So I would read. I would read this strategy guide when everyone else was reading legit books. I'd read this strategy guide and then make up like stories about it, and I hadn't played the game. I think it was like I think no, it wasn't Ocarina of Time. It was a 2D one.
To the Past or Link's Awakening, maybe.
Yeah, it
But
might have been
that's fun. Yeah,
Link's. No, because it was in color. Link's Awakening guide, I think, was in. I don't know. I don't remember,
yeah,
but it was just it reminded me of that. I actually got pretty good grades on that one too, surprisingly, because it wasn't actually a book. It was just a strategy guide. But whatever.
nice. That was back when we actually like read strategy guides, right? Like nowadays, that's like a distant memory. Like we don't even think about strategy guides anymore, right? It's
No,
just,
now we got the
so,
computer. We got the internet.
yeah, even like in the 2000s or like the 2010s, people be like, just go to game FAQs, right, or whatever. But
Yeah.
just Google it. But yeah, back in the day though, strategy guides are cool, man. I remember like Nintendo Power publishing all these really detailed like guides with maps and stuff like that, right? But those were the days.
Yeah, the one you needed was Pokemon. That was like, yeah, I had to get the Pokemon guide every game I got.
Oh yeah, and the art in those guys was cool too. But yeah, Pokemon is another rabbit hole we'll get into surely later in the conversation. But yeah, it was interestingly different times back then.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of people also don't understand that. All these youngins, we old geezers over here, Lucentai, we know about strategy guides. Physical strategy guides that got printed out. Anyways, sorry
Yeah,
for the tangent. Um,
there'll be some of those, I guess, right? That's what makes it fun.
there'll probably be a lot of them. Where were we? Oh, we were talking about your gaming history. So
Yes.
after NES and stuff, you stayed like Nintendo fanboy for a while. I mean, I know like most of the early systems were dominated by Nintendo, but
Yeah, so I was pretty fortunate in a handful of ways, right? So like I was pretty much a Nintendo fanboy. So like I've owned every Nintendo console. That said, I actually also had a Genesis, right? But like of course you can't really afford games for like everything. So like I pretty much only had like a few games for the Genesis, like I don't know, maybe like 10 games or something like that. But I was pretty much a hardcore Nintendo fan. I think that started to change a bit around the PlayStation era, in which like anyone who's had an N64 will probably know that like one there weren't that like as many games, right? And then two, those cartridges were really expensive. So by the time the PlayStation came out, like I was starting to like change gears and become sort of like this hybrid Sony Nintendo fan, I guess. But yeah, those are interesting times. That said, right around the PlayStation 2 and GameCube era, I was basically preparing to enter college, right? So I um I have like this weird gap where I didn't really get to play that many games around that time. So like I essentially took a break from games for a little while, and then now I'm like back into it, and that's when trophies came around, right? So fun times.
so yeah, so I guess we can start getting into the trophies and achievements and Pokemon things. So initially when trophies came out, I don't know, what were some of your first plats and things? Like you were right when they came out, you were playing stuff and or going for
Um,
trophies.
yeah, so I actually did not own a PS3 until December 2009, right? So then trophies were mandatory starting like at the beginning of 2009, I think January or something like that. So my very first platinum was actually that Sonic's Ultimate Genesis collection. Um, so I think I digged a trophy on like my friend's PS3 or something like that, right? So like I was actually like a relative latecomer. But regardless, I still remember like the days of like um Linker in Shadows, like Frogger,
Oh yeah.
to some degree Echo Chrome, like but like I used to call like Frogger like 3 gold trophies like the game, right? Which probably sounds pretty funny nowadays. But
Well,
I
that's
actually
like what a
yeah.
lot of the trophy games are nowadays. They're just the trophies. I mean, you don't
Yeah.
play them, so I don't know if you know how like just swarmed and swamped the scene is with those things. But yeah, I mean that's a kind of funny way to put it. The game of three gold trophies.
Yeah, I haven't personally experienced how easy it is, right? I mean, the closest thing is probably like that sound shapes like plat, right? But that's like cross save, so it's a little different. You still have to play sound shapes to like get like the plat in the first place. So it's not like totally free, right? So, but for context, like if you have like if you completed sound shapes, you could transfer that progress to like the other platforms like Vita or PS4 and ding the platinum like instantly for those platforms, right? But yeah, dialing things back a little bit. I actually didn't ding too many platinums in the early days. Um, I think it was more when like the Vita came out, like February 2012. That's kind of when I started getting more into it. So I was like grinding and grinding for like things like Virtua Tennis 4, like Ragnarok Odyssey, Soul Sacrifice, and certain fighting games like Blaze Blue and stuff like that.
I
So,
mean, those are pretty legit games, though. I mean, those aren't like just purely grinding a platinum count. I mean, that's like grinding to finish the game and get a good quality plat out of it. Um,
right. So that was back when platinums like took you maybe like 30 plus hours or whatever, right? But probably pretty different from nowadays, I would imagine. But yeah,
very
that was
much
back when
so.
you had to grind. Yeah, and very much different, right? Yeah, and one of the ones that was pretty challenging was the well, for context, fighting game trophies used to be really, really rough, right? So, like, if you look at some of the most difficult platinum lists, like Street Fighter 4 is on there, just because like you have to do like these frame perfect combos or whatever, right? And suffice to say, I didn't do that, but but one of the ones they did do was the Blaze Blue Continuous Shift platinum on PS3, and like you actually have to legitimately play the game, right? You have to get like a pretty high like rank online, and to do that, you have to actually like win games online. So you can't just like only grind against your friend, or else it's gonna take forever, right? So I don't even know how long that grind took, but it was hard. It's like you actually have to like learn to play and stuff like that, right? So those are the days.
Yeah, fighting games, my weakness. There were some very easy fighting games.
There were, yeah.
That you could just button mash and get through. But yeah, some of the hardest plats would be fighting games.
Yeah,
Especially
sure.
ones that
Yeah,
have
they changed that too.
I don't even see that many fighting games that come out of late.
Yeah,
But yeah, some of them were pretty easy. There was like that latest Blaze Blue. I was able to do it.
yeah,
Um,
cross tag is not that bad at all. It's very doable. Um, but even over time, they started dialing down difficulty, right? So even like Central Fiction, which is like the last quote unquote like mainline BlazBlue or whatever, right? Like, they that one didn't have like these crazy like online grinds. Like I did it just playing like 10 matches with my buddy or whatever. And whereas like before, like it was a really quite the journey, right? So
I think just in general, in every genre, trophies have gotten easier.
yeah,
but
right, yeah.
but yeah, congrats on that one.
Thank you, thank you.
Online ranking stuff is usually a pain, usually hard. Yeah, and like you said, when you had to get good at games, because now it's
Yeah,
like you can just keep flipping back and forth. You never really get good at something if you just keep moving on to the next one. And like I've said in other episodes, the people that are the best at a certain game have like one plat and it's in that game. It's like all they play. Um,
that yeah. Even like when I was playing like fighting games, you would notice like people like specializing in the or whatever, right? And also what should we call it? Sometimes even people who are really really good at a game don't even like platinum it or whatever, right? Because they just want to play. But oftentimes I would like definitely see people like specializing in like the one game or whatever, which I don't tend to do as hardcore. But I mean, I guess to some degree I was like playing enough to get good at it, right? But or kind of sort of good at it, I guess you could say. But
well, would you say that I mean, the trophies did try to get you to challenge yourself in that regard to get that trophy? I would guess.
Yes. One really interesting thing that kept me motivated about fighting game trophies in particular is that they generally make you do something with every character or whatever, right? So like you have to choose a specific character and fulfill some parameter, right? Like do a specific combo or like do a move that you might not have like tried otherwise. So that was actually really interesting, right?
So in
But
that case, they did get
yeah.
you to play more of the game. They did get you more out of the game.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And but yeah, of course there were those trophies that were just like do this on hard or like play online and get a rank or whatever, right? But like over time I think like I was less and less interested in like rank, but like in the earlier days I would like play online like more, but I think at some point I just kind of like was like, I want to play the game. I don't really feel like grinding these ranks anymore. But
And also an interesting point you brought up, saying that people didn't even have the plat for the game. So like, yeah, there's certainly people that just don't care whatsoever about the trophies. But I would kind of think, even if you didn't care about trophies, if you really love the game, you might still just go for the plat. But I guess some people they don't. They just want to play their online, and get really good at it and whatnot. But yeah, that was an interesting point I thought you brought up.
yeah, I think people chase different things, right? So I think some people chase like online ranks or whatever. So like some of my friends in like the Puyo community, they try to chase certain ranks like on the online leaderboard or whatever. So like some people want to be like number one and like for context like Puyo Tetris and Puyo Champions they let you set your region, right? So like when you set your region, there's a regional leaderboard, so you can try to be like the number one in your state or like the number one in your country or whatever, right? So I think some people would rather chase that rather than like the plat. But that's hard, man. It's like I can claim like top 20 like in so and so state, but that doesn't necessarily. I mean, like it's interesting, right? It's like even if I try to like be like number one in so and so region, like there's like probably like 100 people that are like in your state that are like want to like one up you or whatever, right? And that doesn't even necessarily mean like you're like the best at the game, right? It's just a number, right? So it's but then again, I guess to some degree, like trophies are like number farming, right?
Yeah, and actually we could I was gonna get into that too. Speaking of leaderboards, but one thing I was gonna say was yeah, you were mentioning reasons why people would play and stuff. So yeah, I mean if different people have different reasons, and that's
They do.
what I've also been coming to realize. So I mean, we got the people that just play for their trophy counts, which I'm still trying to understand. But then we got people trying to be the best in a leaderboard in a fighting game and whatnot. So,
Right.
I guess somewhat bragging rights too, maybe. I don't know, but something for me to mull over and ponder. Probably after this, then I'll think, oh, that makes sense, maybe, sort of. I don't
Yeah,
know.
leaderboards are kind of an interesting thing, right? Because it's all some degree of like maintenance, but it's like in itself, it's sort of a grind in a way, right? So it's like if you want to maintain your rank, like um, you feel this weird compulsion, right? Whether it's trophies, whether it's like rank in a game or something like that, right? So
Well,
it's but
they're a little different depending on what the leaderboard is. Like
that's true, yeah,
trophies, if you stop playing, you're gonna drop. You have
yeah,
to keep it up. But if it's a leaderboard like on speedrun.com or whatever, as long as you put, I mean, yeah, there is maintenance if someone beats you, but it's not like
yeah,
you have to constantly do it every single day. Otherwise, you lose points and whatnot. That's the problem with a
right,
point based leaderboard too. Is kind of just, I mean, you have a time pressure of you have to keep it up, otherwise you slip into obscurity, basically. But if
right.
it's a leaderboard more of like, I don't know, tournaments and things like that, yeah, you gotta attend the tournaments and things, but it's not. It's a little more skill related too, and it's a little less time critical. And you can kind of take breaks and stuff, and maybe like next season, like take a season off or something like that. But with trophies, it's like you can't. I mean, if you take a year off at this point, I mean, I don't think there's any coming back.
Yeah, it's that it's pretty. Like the trophy leaderboard is probably pretty hard to do nowadays, right? Because I would imagine like there's just a lot of quote unquote catch up to do,
Oh,
and it's
sorry.
like I can't even fathom.
Could you repeat
Like,
that? I accidentally muted the mic.
yeah, that's all good. It's interesting that you make the distinction between like I would say like quote unquote like score based slash skill based leaderboards versus like trophy leaderboards, right? Because if someone tried to get onto like the top of like a PlayStation leaderboard now, or I'm sorry, a trophy leaderboard nowadays, like I can't even fathom what it would take to even like get up there nowadays, if it's even possible, right? You'd probably have to like play a lot of games to quote unquote catch up, right? So I would imagine it's pretty hard. If it's just, I'm sure you just have to like just farm like nonstop or whatever, right? But it's like, man, I can't even fathom the amount of work it would take.
Well,
But
takes
yeah,
it takes less work to get the same amount of plats now. Like,
right.
however, the other people you're competing against, as long as they're trying to remain relevant on the leaderboard, are also playing those fast plats. Um, but it means that the people that are up there can't stop because now the value of the trophies is that they earned already is kind of lessened if you're just going by pure number, and so people can catch up to you like super fast. Um, so it's almost, I don't want to say the opposite of what you're saying, but I feel like people can just overtake you so fast. Like you can just finish 3 4 games in a couple hour in like an hour now, and it's just, I don't know. Just
Yeah,
it's a crazy scene.
yeah, that's wild to think about, man. It's just like I'm probably mentioning like these totally like ancient examples, like what playthrough from like 2010 or whatever, right? But it's just it's wild to see where things have come. But I think to some degree, like I guess it's kind of inevitable in a way, right? Just because like we remember the days when like a digital title didn't have a platinum, right? So
Yeah,
like if the game were released on Xbox Live Arcade, or if it were like a digital exclusive, like a smaller indie title, or whatever, it wouldn't have a platinum. But it's like platinums were supposed to be for like box star retail games or whatever, right? And now like it's just weird to think that like literally everything has like, well, almost, I shouldn't say literally, but it's wild to think that like so many games have like platinums now. It's like weird relative to the early days of like 3 gold trophies a game or whatever, right? But
yeah, that was a rarity too.
it
For
was
stuff
rare. It was
that
super, yeah.
super rare.
There's a reason
Now
why I
it's a
remember Frogger. Yeah,
commonality. Now it's rare we
yeah,
have a legit like full on trophy list.
yeah. It's such wildly different times. But to further remark on leaderboards, Judge, really quick. Um, it is really interesting you talk about maintenance and taking breaks, right? So like, I actually play some Arcade Archives games on Switch. So there are a few games where I happen to actually be like have a pretty decent like rank on like the score based leaderboard, but for like score, um, you don't have to like grind it every single day, right? So like I think I'm like top 100 in Twinbee or like and also like Wrecking Crew or whatever, right? So like I'm actually allowed to like take like a month or two break and then come back later, right? But it's like it's just a different sort of flow compared to like trophies, right? So
Yeah, for sure. Were you ever on like cared about your trophy rank leaderboard? That ever something you cared about?
um it's always been a curiosity more than anything, so I've never tried to like chase rank on any of the trophy websites, right? So
It's just more like a look up. Oh, I'm 100 in the state of Nevada or whatever.
right, yeah, I was like I am like number like I don't, I think I'm like maybe like in the 5,000, 6,000, somewhere, or maybe I used to be. I don't really remember, but like It's like, oh, I'm like so and so thousands in the U.S. That's kind of cool, I guess, right? But yeah, I've never really tried to chase it. I think a large part of that is just because I tend to play games that don't really allow for that. Um, so like, especially like,
You just play
sorry
games
for
you
this.
enjoy,
Yeah,
basically.
right. Yeah. So yeah, again, sorry for a slight tangent, but like, I think certainly in the last like mid to late 2010s that play games that aren't necessarily conducive to trophies, right? So like Destiny, Overwatch, like Division or whatever. Those are like perpetual online games, but they're not really the best for farming trophies because one, they only have the one trophy set, and two, like those trophies are really finicky. So I don't actually have the platinums in any of those games, but I played it for like hundreds of hours or whatever, right? But they don't really let you climb the leaderboards, so it's like that's the leaderboards. The trophy leaderboards are never really something I cared about too much, just because it's hard for me to do. But
Yeah, I mean those games are just more of the platinum is a personal achievement of, oh look, I played Destiny, as opposed to, oh, I need to finish Destiny as fast as I can so I can rank up on the leaderboard here.
yeah, and the funny part is that I don't even think it was possible to platinum it for the first week because I don't think the raid was out. So like that was very much like a 0% acquisition rate for like a little while. So you couldn't even do that if you wanted to. So that was pretty funny.
Yeah, or if you're going for like rare trophies or something, maybe too. But
Mhm.
anyways, so uh, the trophies like change the way you were playing your games.
To some degree, right? So if the trophy was doable, I would go for it. But like, if it were some crazy grind, I generally would not really do that, right? So it sort of depends on the list. Going back to like some of those character-based fighting game trophies, I wouldn't necessarily try to like do things like stay in the air for like however many seconds, right? I wouldn't normally do that, but I'm like, oh, this is kind of a curious challenge. Let me just like try to do it or whatever, right? Um, and I think I would do some grinds if it were like within reach, right? So I think for like Puyo Tetris especially, one of the trophies that's a grind is to blow up like 100,000 like Puyos or something like that. And I'm like okay, I'll buckle down and like sit down for hours and do it or something like that, right? But I think for the most part, I would really only go for it if it supplemented something I was interested in, right? So like, if it was like a bit of like, I would say like a quote unquote sub quest, let's say, like I would do it. But if it's like, oh, play like a thousand matches or something like that, I'm like, I'm not doing that. But especially I think like some of the earlier fighting game trophies, I think like King of Fighters like 12. I think you literally had to do like 1,400 like matches or something like that. I'm like, I'm not doing that. But
What?
yeah, I think especially. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, like, was it ever you approached the game differently because it had trophies? Like, you had there was some guide that had all the missables and stuff and collectibles, and so you followed the guide instead of just playing for fun, and things like
I
that.
see what. Yeah, sorry for the digression there. I think I have used a guide to play something maybe like a handful of times, but in general speaking, I wouldn't say that I would use a guide beforehand. I sometimes I would look at the guide just out of curiosity, see how hard a game is, but like in general, I wouldn't say I went out of my way for it, right? So like for most JRPGs, there are missables out the wazoo, right? So like especially for like some of the earlier like Atelier games or like as well a notorious case in like the Xbox 360 days was like Blue Dragon. So if you didn't follow like a guide, you're pretty much hosed, right? So it's like there were a lot of missable like achievements in that game. So I would generally say I wouldn't really use a guide to like be very fastidious and do it as I go. Like I would just like play the game or whatever, right? But
Yeah, so it sounds
um,
like they didn't really affect your how gaming was to you.
no, I would. They're more of a like a curiosity, but I wouldn't like go out of my way for it, or like I wouldn't say like I would fret about it if like if I happen to miss it, or if I happen to like get it, that's cool. But like I wouldn't say like busted out guides all the time. I think there are a few cases like I think in like Borderlands like two in pre-sequel, I would look at a guide and see like to see like what this quest or what this trophy was actually asking me to do. And but generally in those games, those are pretty doable trophies, right? So like it's I wouldn't say like oh, I gotta follow this guide like by the letter or whatever, right? So
Yeah,
they kind of affected me.
so much different take than previous guests. Even, um, yeah, I would say you were kind of just more of a casual trophy hunter, but you would get
Yes.
plats for games you would enjoy. I mean, you said you did a little bit of stacking some stuff, but I'm guessing that got pretty old pretty quick for you, and and that's why you stopped doing it.
Yeah. The, I felt more than just a little guilty about that sound shape stack, but I mean, you still had to play sound shapes to like get it in the first place, right? But I believe the only like platinum stacks I have are like four Puyo Tetrises and the three sound shapes. I think those are the only stacks I have.
Well,
But
I don't know.
afterwards, I'm like,
I don't consider those like trashy games. Like, I
yeah,
mean, the sound shapes thing, yeah, that's a little cheap. But I mean, playing like Puyo, I mean, that's a legit game.
yeah.
Um,
It's just there's no cross save for any of those Puyo Tetrises, so you had to blow up 100,000 Puyos like four times, right? So, but it's still technically a stack, I guess, right? But
no,
like,
see, when you said stack some puzzle games, I thought you meant like the ones you just they're like 30-minute plats. That's what I thought you meant.
oh,
Okay, so you
um,
never played those.
yeah,
Um,
I'm not sure I know which ones off the top of my
okay,
head,
so
but
so you um yeah, I guess you are kind of unaware of the scene of how just crazy the stacks and stuff are then. But yeah, I would think
yes,
I think stacking Puyo 4 times is still pretty legit. If I mean, because you like Puyo, so
I do,
um,
yes, but and I guess we'll have to see how that Puyo Tetris 2 platinum works out, right? but
yeah, you should go for it. That 1 billion Puyos popped. You could
oh
stream
my
it for
god,
years. Um,
yeah, if that'll be pretty funny if they make us blow up 100,000 again, but we'll see how that goes.
All right, so I think we got a general idea of you as a trophy hunter.
Yeah,
When you were doing that. So what kind of? You said you haven't earned a platinum in quite a while. So what kind of
uh,
got you to stop? I don't know. Stop
uh,
trying to get them.
Um, so the easiest answer is that the Nintendo Switch came out. So yeah, that was March 2017. It's wild to think about. The Switch is like 3.5 years old, but basically, I wanted to pour like a lot of resources into the Switch, right? So a lot of cross-platform games or like arcade archives games, I would just buy for the Switch instead, right? Because I could have chosen to buy like all of these arcade archives games on PS4 and bolstered my numbers, right? But
Yeah, because
ultimately,
they're
like,
generally
yeah,
pretty easy to finish on, get trophies
they
in.
are. Yeah, but yeah, I just wanted to play games on the Switch, right? So I would pick up pretty much like a lot of the first party games and then stream those, right? So like Mario Kart, R, Splatoon, um, and if you're playing like hundreds of hours of Splatoon, you're probably not going to be focusing on trophies as much, right? So that's pretty much an easier answer. That said, I would still buy games for PS4 if they benefit from the power of the PS4, right? So like certain games like Mortal Kombat 11, it's gonna run better on like a PS4, right? So I mean, I would still do some on PS4, but largely, by and large, like any cross-platform games, I'm buying for Switch just because of portability and to be entirely honest, it's just kind of nice not having notifications pop. I know you can turn those off, but like it's nice not having to like worry about it, right? But
Yeah, I mean you could turn them off. I mean that's interesting too. Just the idea of not having some notification. Does
Mhm.
lack of achievements and stuff. I mean, there's those in-game ones though in some of the games.
Yes.
Does lack of that do you like that, or do you wish there was some sort of system on there? Um
Um,
I mean,
it's kind of a
personally,
mixed bag. Yeah.
yeah, personally I would like the games to have in-game achievements but not a global system. Um and
Yeah. That's it's really interesting, right? So, I don't generally care too much about a global system for Switch. Um, uh, I mean, part of it for like Xbox achievements and PlayStation trophies, it's sort of about like flaunting your stuff, right? So it's like, yeah, let's check out what I did. Let's check out what game I platinumed or whatever, right? But like, for in-game stuff in Switch, I don't generally chase too much just because like only I can really like see it. So I'd rather just play it, right? But I mean,
yeah, I
the
mean,
first,
I
yeah,
like the fact that you kind of you well, you could still share it. You could still share it, like post it on Twitter or Instagram or something.
that's true. Yeah.
Or actually, I think it'd be cool if there was like you got badges on your system or something. So when you streamed, you could show off all the stuff, but it didn't like it wasn't global because I mean, there's all the Radalika and all the crazy cheapo plats on the Switch eShop as
Mhm,
well.
mhm.
And it just kind of destroyed a lot of stuff, in my opinion. But and then compare people comparing themselves to others, plat count wise, and all this stuff. Um, I think it'd just be nice, and that way too. It wouldn't. It'd be like if it's a game I enjoyed, I could go for it. But if it's not, it doesn't matter that I played it and didn't like. I just played it for the story and stuff, and then kind of just moved on to something else.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. 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 Nowadays you could definitely share stuff like pretty easily from PS4 and Switch, right? So so if you really wanted to, you could show off like your in-game like achievements or whatever. So I guess for like specific games like I guess like Splatoon 2, if you really want to show off your like X rank or whatever, you could. But like I feel like that's a little it's like a little different from like what like the appeal of trophies, right? So it's like I think like for some people they really like just having it like on their card or whatever, right? So but I guess it kind of depends on what you want to like flaunt, right? If that's what you're all about. But
I guess, yeah, I guess that's true.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
but yeah,
so
it's just different strokes, I guess.
So the other thing I know you're into is you played a lot of mobile games and stuff, and
Oh snap!
there's kind of a somewhat similar FOMO system going on in some of those as well.
Yes.
And I briefly played like a Final Fantasy phone game for a little bit, but you are much more an expert in that. So, I mean, one of the things I did want to do in the series was talk about people that did other things other than trophies that were still kind of similar. So, what's your take on the FOMO experience in regards to mobile games, and I guess to an extent like Pokemon having timed exclusives and stuff like that, and feeling the need to keep up with them, and then I'm guessing you've dropped a few. Um, and how
Yeah.
difficult
It's
was that for you to do?
um.
I'm sorry, I probably
Yeah.
should have.
No. It's an
I
awesome question.
it's probably like 7 questions in there.
I definitely have a lot to say about mobile games. So for sort of a context, I wasn't really that much into them for like the longest time, like because I used to think like I could just play something on like a DS or like a 3DS instead of like getting super invested in like mobile games. But I think sort of the interesting point came when like Nintendo started like investing in them, right? So I remember Thanksgiving 2017, they released Animal Crossing Pocket Camp. So like this was like years after New Leaf came out, and of course this would have been way before like New Horizons came out on Switch, right? So it's like, oh, like let me just fill in the void with some Animal Crossing on my phone, and um, I don't really talk about it too much because it's kind of an embarrassing point. I've like pretty much logged into Pocket Camp every day since then, so like over 2 years, right?
Oh
Which is
man.
like not, yeah, it's not exactly the proudest point, but um so far as FOMO goes,
Yeah, so
this
you
game like
I guess you feel
uh,
the need to log in every day, right?
yes. But yeah, so far as FOMO goes, the game is like a monthly like event or whatever, right? So it's like you make sure that you like fulfill all the parameters, catch all the fish, like, water the flowers, like catch the bugs on the flowers, like make sure you do this like every like month, or else you will miss out on this very specific furniture, right? Which is dangerous for me because like this furniture is like super cute and colorful and rainbow, and anyone who knows me knows I love rainbows and all that good stuff, right? But the game's thresholds get kind of vicious. So like there were some points when I was like setting alarms to like wake up at specific times strategically just to play.
Ew.
So at some point I'm like, yeah, this is probably a little too much. So I don't wake up at specific times anymore. And at some point I realized I'm like accumulating all this furniture anyway. I'm not really using it that much anyway. So I'm like, it's okay to like let go a little bit. Well, like I still like try for it, but I don't like set alarms or stuff anymore. Just because ultimately I realized you're just chasing digital goods, right? So it's like I felt less compelled over time, but it
Yeah,
may have
I
taken
mean,
like a little while.
I can definitely relate to that with leaderboard stuff. I mean, you were saying you did some crazy things of setting alarms and all that. I mean, it's
Yeah.
kind of similar. I do crazy things of like um Vita tricking or playing multiple region accounts the same times, like or
Oh
six
man.
times same games. I mean, it's crazy. Um, or just like put in my system with a turbo controller to just run through a visual novel or something or whatever. But yeah, I mean
Yeah.
it's very similar. And then you like you said, you just miss out on your furniture there. I would miss out on plats, I guess, and the plat count, and I'd also feel the need to have to get every single game done that was like a relatively easy plat at least. Yeah, so and then you'd get like, how'd you feel if you were like gonna miss it? Like, like I would get like anxious and stuff too. Um, I don't know if that happened to
Yeah.
you.
There was a lot of anxiety. I think part of that subsided because they actually introduced gotcha into the game 6 months after it came out, right? So, like for context, like gotcha is basically like it's a abbreviation of gachapon, which is like a series of or it's a thing in which basically if you get like a gachapon capsule from like a machine, you get like a random toy or whatever. Like these have been around for quite a long time, but nowadays like sort of like randomized like system is in a lot of mobile games. So gotcha leads to a lot of like random polls. So when you look at like gotcha, there's like percentages of how often something is going to be like dropped or pulled or whatever, right? So at some point, I think like certain items in Pocket Camp had like maybe like a 2% or maybe like a 4% pull rate, but needless to say, it's not really feasible to like try to get everything in that game because even if you like pay like hundreds of bucks, that doesn't necessarily something, right? So
Yeah,
like
you
I
cut out there.
yeah. Oh, so just because even if you pay like hundreds of dollars, you're not necessarily going to beat like the 2% or 4% or whatever chances, right? So it's like I think at that point I started to dial back just a little bit. I wasn't really anxious about missing out on everything because of that, but
Yeah, that's
for the events
interesting
though, yeah,
because
yeah,
that kind of makes it so it's like I don't want to say impossible to get everything, but it's not just a time commitment and stuff and money commitment. It's like there's like almost nobody that's gonna have everything anyway, and
yes,
it just
yeah, man.
Yeah, so that is interesting. So if they made it so that you could not get every platinum possible, um, I mean that wouldn't, based on how the trophy system works, that wouldn't be the case. But like it wasn't some random thing where only certain people could randomly get this one. Yeah, that's
Right.
interesting. That's a.
Yeah.
I'm sure I didn't explain myself very well there, but
Oh
um,
no, I understand it. No, but it's like a kind of a different type of gating, right? So it's
yes,
like
that's a good
it's
word.
gating via randomness versus like gating with your trophy list, right? So um like if the trophy list is like really set up in a way that is not going to let you get it or whatever, then like that's basically like difficult in a different quote unquote difficult in like a different sense, right? But yeah, and yeah, like I guess to also further elaborate really quick, I got into Pokemon Go about 2.5 years ago, and in that game, they do like weekly events pretty much. So it's like, oh, this Pokemon will spawn like for like 10 days or something like that. So you better darn well play, or else it might not spawn so frequently in the future. They don't literally say that, but it's like it's the sort of like compulsion where it's like, well, I better play like every week, or else like I might miss out on this Pokemon. I might, but the interesting part regarding Pokemon Go though is that certain Pokemon are actually in that game are geographically locked. So like you actually have to like catch the
Fly there.
Pokemon over. You actually have to catch the Pokemon over in like a different continent of the world, right? So it's like it's really difficult to catch everything because like I'm not in Japan right now, right? So it's
Yeah.
kind of interesting, but you still like feel compelled to do what you can, and they try to operate on that sense of FOMO again. It's like, well, if you don't raid, like, or if you don't play the game on this one specific day, like, you might not get like the specific thing, right? So it's they try to get you that way, right? But at some
Yeah,
point, you just have to draw the line.
they
Yeah,
try to keep you into the game, and stuff like that. And I feel like,
right.
I mean, that's what they do with the trophy system, the achievement system, and stuff too. When they make a new console, it's like, well, all this stuff is gonna carry over, and we want to have it as a reason that you stay with our system is because you have all these trophies already. I mean, not like I'm not saying
Yeah,
it's the only reason. Well, for some people it might be, but I mean, it's just a draw that they can easily do. Um,
yes.
and then same with like in mobile games, I'm sure it's very easy for them to just do a like a timed exclusive Pokemon for the month or something, or make it shiny, or give it a
Oh
strange hat.
god, shinies. Oh, shinies. Oh man, yeah. To further sort of provide background so far as shiny Pokemon Go and Pokemon Go, um, I think I don't know the exact numbers because I think all those stats are like sort of estimated or conjecture or under conjecture. But like, I think like shiny alternate colored Pokemon might spawn like one in every like 400 ish for specific types, right? But they do this thing called Community Day, where basically one day a month. Like if you play during like the 3 hour period, or well nowadays in the times of the pandemic, it's like for 6 hours, right? But like if you play during these 3 hours, like you get a higher, like, you get like a really good chance of like catching more shiny Pokemon. So it becomes more like one in every like I think like 25 or whatever, right? But it's like so you want to like play during these 3 hours. So I've done like crazy lengths, right? Like so I get up, I like ride Caltrain all the way for down to like South like the South Bay, which is like the part of Northern California. But so I try to like play with my buddy, catch like hundreds of Pokemon for like these 3 hours to try to get these shinies or whatever, right? But it's like it's interesting that they try to gate things to try to get you like keep playing the game, and but it gets a little crazy sometimes. You just have to like draw the line and realize, well, maybe I don't need so many shinies, or like maybe I don't need to catch like more than one of this Pokemon or whatever, right? But it's it's an interesting game for sure, but it's kind of silly in some ways too.
Yeah, I'm really liking that gate term. But yeah, when you like
Yeah,
step back and think about it, it's like, yeah, this is kind of silly. Um, that I go through all these lengths to maintain and stuff like that. But it's that FOMO thing. Um,
Yeah.
and it's probably harder the longer you put into it, or the more you put into it, and the longer you put into it, the harder it is to step away. I think, at least. Um, but
Yeah, you definitely touched on something pretty interesting, right? So, so far as system sort of um, loyal, I guess we can call it loyalty. So far as system loyalty is concerned, I definitely know some friends that like stick with like a system just because they don't want to like lose out on their achievements or their trophies or their cross save games or whatever, right? So like, or I guess cross buy games you could say, right? So uh, it was an interesting split for me because I actually was really hardcore into the Xbox 360, right? But I think at some point I had to draw the line just because I really liked what Sony was doing with the PS4, so I was willing to make that jump. But I think it was easier to make that jump just because I was like on the Vita or whatever anyway. But I actually used to be like a super hardcore like 360 achievement hunter like
oh,
way back when in
I
like
didn't
the
know
late
that.
2000s. Yeah.
We should have talked
Um.
about this.
My bad. I got out of order. But I was more concerned about like getting trophies in like Xbox live arcade things. So I would be doing like these crazy things just for like very few points or whatever, right? But nowadays, like everything's got like more points in general across the board. Uh, so like it used to be like what like Xbox Live Arcade games were like 200 points, and then they were boosted up to 400. But retail games were 1,000 points. But nowadays, like everything's got 1,000 points, so it's kind of like platinums in a way, right? It's just like
Yeah, it sounds
universal.
exactly
It's
like
like
it.
yeah, they just made it more easy for across the board, right? So I'm like, thinking in retrospect, I chased these things for like 200 points, but now you can just play something like super quick.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel with trophies. Um, I spent 50 hours on a really boring game. Oh, now I can spend 10 minutes on a boring game, but it's only 10 minutes and get a platinum. So, oh well.
Yeah, it's really weird how things are kind of like made like I don't even know if you want to call it more accessible, but like easier over time, I guess. But
Well, I
it's a
think
little
the
weird,
shift
but
was then they started selling the games based on their achievements or trophies as opposed
yeah,
to before. And in order for them to be competitive in that sense, they have to make it faster and faster and faster and faster.
yeah. But at some point, it's like we're like at some point, like you're pretty much just gonna like open the game and like ding it, so practically, right? So it's just weird to like imagine. It's like back in the day, like we were playing games to like just play the game, but now it's like uh, we have to like draw the line and try to like not to be drawn into like these like compulsions or whatever, right? But it's really hard though. Like if you're in that system, it's really hard to draw the line, right? So like for me, it's all like, well, it's okay to like not pull this thing, or like it's okay to not catch this thing or whatever, right? But it's tough, man. And I actually to further elaborate on mobile games, I also play Nintendo inside games Galia Lost. And in that game, you pull adventurers, you pull dragons, and the game is really cool. It's really slick and stylish, and it's actually really solidly built for a mobile game. But the thing is that sometimes these rare characters actually help you do raids better, and sometimes in like public groups online because you can play games in four-player groups with public groups or whatever. I've heard of stories where like if they see you not using like a specific character that they want, they'll like just disband or whatever, right? So it's like that just like that's like a sucky feeling, right? So it's just I would have, but you can, again like the percentages 4%, like you can't necessarily like beat like percentages, right? So it's like it's 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 really it makes it pretty kind of complex in a way, but
Yeah, I
you have
mean
to
that
your
is a
personal
little bit
boundaries. Yeah,
different than trophies though, because I mean it does give you a character that's beneficial and things, as opposed to trophies,
yeah.
which are just oh yeah, there's a number there.
Yeah,
In terms of
it's a
count.
little different for sure. Yeah, but It's just you have to like basically always keep in mind what kind of like enjoyment you get out of something, right? So you should never necessarily be drawn into just like numbers. There should be like some like
Yeah,
fun
at
or
least step back
behind it, right?
and think about if you're actually having fun or you're just kind of stuck in a system and you're doing it because of well, you've been marketed to and
Right, yeah.
they want your money. So,
Yeah, and you should never necessarily just like essentially um feel compelled to do something just for numbers, right? Because nowadays, especially in the social media era, we place a lot of stock in the numbers, right? So like we look into how many likes we get on Instagram, how many like retweets you get on like Twitter or whatever, right? And it really sucks that like numbers can affect like your mental state in that way, right? But I draw, and I'm not the most famous artist or whatever, right? But like you have to draw the line and realize that just because somebody has like thousands of likes doesn't necessarily make that art better than yours, right? So like it's really hard to divest yourself away from the impact of numbers. It's like it's kind of tough. Um, but at some point there will always be a point in which we have to step back and reevaluate our choices, because if it doesn't bring you joy, there's a pretty good chance that you'll need to step back, right? So it's tough.
yeah, that's actually a good point too that the amount of likes doesn't even necessarily mean that you have the best art or the best number or whatever.
Yeah, it's just all algorithms, right? It's all just like
Yeah,
it's just a number, right? Yeah.
Twitter and YouTube promoted this to more people, and now there's more likes on it. And I feel like sometimes people just like things just to be nice, or because they want to like back or something. But
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's just like I definitely like things back. But at the same time, though, it's just that doesn't necessarily mean like you got like better art or whatever, right? So like I think nowadays, especially with like Twitch, especially like you have to realize that like like if so and so person is like this many viewers, it doesn't necessarily mean that, like they have a quote unquote like they're not necessarily quote unquote doing a better job or whatever, right? But it's like it's really hard to like not think about that kind of thing.
yeah, and then also when things start going down, like your view count goes down, or you didn't get as many likes as you did on your last post, it's like oh, it feels bad. Why didn't people like this?
Yeah, it's just numbers, right? It might just mean that like some algorithm ate your post, right? So
Yeah.
it's hard, but well, it's hard to like get away from that, I guess I should say. But
All right. Well, we're coming up on an hour here. Maybe we could sum things up a bit, or
holy
unless.
smokes, it has been.
Oh yeah, we've been having fun, right? Time's been flying.
Yes.
Unless you got other points, I know said you took some notes beforehand that I completely forgot about or whatnot. We could discuss or something you want to bring up.
I think we covered most of the bases, but I think going we're about to go into like the next era of consoles and stuff like that, right? So like with the um I think with like the PS5 and stuff like that, it'll be pretty interesting to see where trophies go, right? Like in terms of like stacking it and cross buying and stuff like that. But I think people in general should really try to um not necessarily like blindly just do stuff just because the numbers just to boost the number. I think it's really important to realize like why what you get as something. Like we in your previous interviews, you've discussed that people have want to play games that have fun and stuff like that, and that's the reason why we do play games, right? It's like we play the games that we want to play,
Well,
and
that's the reason we
it,
should be playing games.
this should be yes,
Yeah.
exactly. But I think it's definitely really hard to like not want to maintain a number count, right? Like, I think if I were in your position, I would probably be like anxious, like all over the place. But it's really really hard to like um you reevaluate your choices and really understand why you like get into something, right? So it's just but it's a difficult thing to do, but at some point everyone's going to hit like some degree of a breaking point, right? So I think with me, I realized, well, I want to play stuff on the Switch, or like these percentages are out of my control, or whatever, right? So it, it should really, really ultimately be about playing what you want to play.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I agree.
But it's easier said than done, mind you.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah. Yes.
Um, all right. Well, thanks for coming on. Thanks so much. Also, guys, if you didn't know, Vin is like an amazing artist, and you can follow.
Oh.
You can see his like images. I mean, they're just like unbelievable. I mean, it could be
Oh.
because I'm a terrible artist, but if you want to check his stuff out, he streams as well. So you want to give your like Twitches and Twitters and stuff. I'll link them in the description. If you give them to me. But
So I
any
pretty much go by Lucentai on all social medias. I'm on Twitter, Twitter and Twitch as Lucentai. So you can check out some things over there. And I'm also on ArtStation and stuff like that. But yeah, I pretty much just stream art on Twitch and occasionally some games too. But yeah, I definitely
you
have
kind of go
fun.
through phases on your Twitch. A gaming
Yes.
for game for a month and then art for a month and stuff like that.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah,
Yeah.
you
Well,
definitely stream games too, for sure.
I do. Yes. 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 Like a running joke on my Twitch is that I say I'm gonna platinum this game on Twitch, and I'm like, hey. And then I'm like, I just feel like drawing instead.
Yeah, do what's fun. And
Exactly.
also you're really good at drawing, so
Oh,
you
I
should
really
you should you
appreciate that,
should
man.
you
You're
should
too
keep
kind. You're
that
too
up.
kind.
All right. Well, yeah, I'm gonna leave my links in the description as well as always. Everybody have a good night, good morning, enjoy your games. Thanks for watching. Comment below if you got any input on the topics and things of mobile games and stuff. Maybe you
Yes.
play some mobile games and kind of experience this FOMO feeling, or FOMO with trophies and stuff too. So. All right, everybody.
Yeah.
Gonna be signing out. Thanks again to Lucentai,
Thanks for
and
having me.
yeah, you were awesome guests. I think this might be the longest interview because we tangented ourselves many a time. So
Yeah, but thanks for having me. I do appreciate it.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Thanks for coming on, and bye bye, everybody.
Take care. Thanks.